Good morning, everybody. Is everyone in the press back there? You all good? You can hear me and everything? All right. We're here today to announce an executive order, but first I need to provide a little bit of context. If you followed my professional career at all, or my career as an elected official in the legislature, you know how important new Americans are to me and to the city of Buffalo. They're responsible for the first population growth that we have seen in 70 years. They're moving into vacant houses. They're stabilizing neighborhoods. They're opening businesses, revitalizing commercial corridors, and putting kids in our schools. Buffalo today would look a lot different without new Americans. In the state legislature, I work closely with Assemblymember John Rivera to create the New York State Enhanced Settlement and Resettlement, and let me do that one again. In the state legislature, I work closely with Assemblymember John Rivera to create the New York State Enhanced Settlement and Resettlement Program. Over the years, we've secured more than $30 million in state funding to help refugee resettlement agencies to help people resettle in the city of Buffalo. Unfortunately, the federal policies are putting these people and these agencies at risk. Federal immigration enforcement is creating fear and confusion in communities that have helped Buffalo grow. We've known for a long time they're not targeting violent offenders. They're not targeting the worst of the worst. The federal government is changing the rules of the game, and they're now going after people who did it the right way. They're sweeping up people with legal status. They're waiting outside of immigration hearings. They're detaining school children and targeting university students. And if that wasn't bad enough, U.S. citizens are being killed on the streets in broad daylight. The videos are disturbing. Renee Good and Alex Preddy were gunned down while exercising their constitutional rights. None of this is making our country any safer. We have an unaccountable federal police force that's terrorizing U.S. cities and U.S. citizens. It's time for the federal government to put a stop to it. For now, we're controlling in the city of Buffalo what we can control. My administration has worked with advocates and professionals and looked at what other cities have done to keep their people safe. Today, I'm signing an executive order prohibiting the use of City of Buffalo resources or personnel for civil immigration enforcement. This applies to all departments in city government. I want to be clear. This will have no impact on our ability to assist with criminal enforcement. We're still going to honor judicial warrants. We're still going to arrest violent criminals regardless of their immigration status, but we're not going to expend city resources on civil immigration enforcement. It's important to know that this is how the city of Buffalo currently operates. We're codifying the current culture. We're not changing behavior. Regardless of your views on ICE, this shouldn't be controversial. But people need to understand there's a big difference between criminal and civil offenses. Cities don't enforce federal civil laws. The City of Buffalo Police Department doesn't track down people who didn't pay their taxes to the IRS. Buffalo police don't arrest people for parking violations. Why? Because those are both civil matters. Even if we wanted to get into the business of civil enforcement, we don't have the resources. It's the federal government's jobs. So I'm formalizing this today because I want City of Buffalo residents to know that they are safe when they're interacting with their city government. ICE's actions have had a chilling effect on both new Americans and long-term citizens. We don't want fear dictating people's uses of our city services. We don't want people to be afraid to come to City Hall because they're afraid someone is going to call ICE. A city can't function if residents are afraid to call the police, if residents are afraid to call the fire department or ask for any other city services that they're entitled to. This executive order draws a bright and necessary line. The City of Buffalo will continue to enforce the law, will continue to cooperate on criminal matters and keep our neighborhoods safe, but we will not be part of the federal civil enforcement agenda that does just the opposite. Buffalo has always been the city of good neighbors, and today I'm putting that principle into writing so everybody and every resident of the city of Buffalo knows where we stand. Does anyone have any questions?
Sean, are you afraid that if you just stop the like tactics of ICE, you're putting the city under their microscope on their radar screen?
So first and foremost, my responsibility is to the people of the city of Buffalo. You know, I can't not act to protect the people of the city of Buffalo because I'm afraid of what a chaotic leader in Washington might do. First step, we protect the people of the city of Buffalo.
Should, there be some kind of federal enforcement role here in Buffalo, what are you prepared to do in response? What resources are you prepared to expend?
I thought I was pretty clear on that. We're not expending any resources on civil enforcement of federal immigration laws.
But let's say you get DHS or CBP or ICE, agents on the streets. What role are the cops going to play? What role are other city agencies going to play?
None.
How will you enforce this? So how will you know if a city employee has a device or not?
This is something we follow up. So if we hear reports, then we'll enforce it. But the first thing we want to do is make our policies crystal clear to the people who work for the city and the people who use city services. So once the policies are crystal clear and people know what their roles and responsibilities are, we expect people to follow those rules. And as for what happens next, we're already talking to our state government. We're already talking, to our county government. We're working through different possible scenarios of what happens next. But today, I'm concentrating on what we have control over, and what we have control over is making sure that every City of Buffalo resident, regardless of immigration status, can feel free and safe to interact with City Hall. As I said, we don't want people not calling the police department if a crime occurred because they're afraid that somehow questions will be asked about immigration status. We don't want people afraid to come to City Hall to get a dog license or to make a report of unsafe living conditions, because they're afraid that'll trigger a federal response. It will not trigger a federal response, and we want everyone living in the city of Buffalo to feel safe, to be able to send their kids to school, to be able to go to work, and also to be able to interact with city government without fear.
I know that ICE has been the big headline maker, but considering that they work with other federal agencies like CBP, I just want to clarify, does this qualify for all of those different agencies?
Yeah, very clearly said all federal enforcement. So there's all different departments that could work on this from the federal government, and you've seen around different American cities, there are federal enforcement agencies and federal officers from all different departments, and this applies to all of those departments.
Have you heard from any counters in government whether Buffalo or Western New York might become a target for escalated enforcement?
No, we're following the similar path that Rochester, Syracuse, and New York City have already taken. And we drafted this, very carefully. There are federal rules about sharing information with the federal government for grants that we receive. So this executive order was very carefully crafted to make sure it is not a foul of any current federal law.
So your executive order also seems to include that you want city agencies to report to you if they are asked by the federal government. Is that happening?
So far, no, but we want people who work in city government also have questions, and they're afraid because they watch the national news and they want to know, where can ICE or any federal immigration people go when they come into City Hall? Where can they go without a warrant? So in addition to the executive order, Maki, we will be putting out, memos for city employees so they know, exactly what their rights and responsibilities are in this instance.
What should they do with it?
Where an incident where ICE has come in and harassed either citizens or businesses in any way, shape, or form?
Do I know of any? Yes, there have been enforcement office actions, throughout the city. People putting on roofs have been arrested. Restaurant owners on the west side have been picked up. Families didn't hear from them from weeks and weeks on end. So yeah, there are enforcement efforts going on, throughout the city of Buffalo.
Any recent ones, or those are from last year?
I don't get briefed on what the federal government does. They don't share that information. So what we know is what we hear when citizens call and tell us these things are happening. And they have questions about what was going on.
You hear the term sanctuary city thrown around with policies like this. Is this what this is establishing in Buffalo, or is this curtail or written, like you were saying?
I don't really know what sanctuary city means. I know it's often used as like a pejorative, like as an insult. So I'll just call this an order that makes everyone who lives in the city of Buffalo know that they are safe and they can avail themselves to city services.
Considering that this just codifies something that was a practice that was already established, and yet you are saying that there are still some concerning things happening with federal immigration, what do you say to people out there who are looking at what's happening and saying, this doesn't really change anything, I'm still scared, et cetera.
Can't take away everyone's fear of what the federal government is doing. We want to provide people as much security as we can, and that's why, the sort of unwritten policy is going to become a written policy, and it'll be formalized. I want seniors to go to senior centers, regardless of their national origin. I want people's children to go to after-school program, regardless of their national origin. So we want people to know that by interacting with city government and availing themselves to city services, that's not going to put an investigation in place that could lead to them being picked up.
Have you had a conversation with the police union about this? Are they on board with, this non-cooperation order?
We've had continuous conversations with the police commissioner through this.
If you're not expending any resources to this situation, if the ICE were to come to Buffalo in any capacity, how does that prevent them to do anything that they've done in the past couple months?
The answer to that is local and city governments have very little control over federal authorities in what they're doing. So, there is no magic wand to make the Trump administration stop terrorizing U.S. cities, U.S. citizens, and new Americans. We wish there were, but that's why I clearly called on the federal government to stop this wrong-headed policy and this wrong-headed use of resources that aren't going after the worst of the worst, that are not making us safer. I don't think anyone can see the film clips of Minnesota or Chicago and say, boy, thank God the federal government put all those resources there. Those cities are now safer. Those cities are traumatized and are in a state of shock. People are avoiding going out in the city of Minneapolis, no matter your citizenship.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yeah, yeah.
One of these, I'm hoping to get the legal case. I talked to one of them.
Yeah. Well, the night is always the best way to figure out.
Is there, Ward 14. You're obviously very plugged in with various groups and what's being discussed if there is.
We got to
So I know that that would cover, you know, the suburbs and the other jurisdictions that are not. You might drive over state lines or, you know, it's kind of nice to come. What other protections?
Hey, okay, thanks, sorry, I have taken breath. I haven't been able to actually.
I guess, I feel like I'm gonna ask you, not everybody wants to do it. Is there gonna be an effort to like? Yeah. Do you think,
All around. Thanks so much. Thanks for your help. Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, where are we gonna sign? My desk?
Yes, do off topics first, let's still set up. Off topics, but we should just get the. Actually, Angelica, can you hang back and after off topics, make sure we're doing what we're doing?
Yeah, he's talking.
Okay, okay. Nick's flying it now, so. Show me a second, get that, and then I'll get to
The microphone, I don't know why they have it here. I don't know if it's because it gets too high, but I can't put,
Yeah, get where to put those.
yeah, it's hard to.
Moving it all the way to one side, do the trick, get that or not?
It might.
Move it up and tilt it down.
Do you think they're afraid to? Yes, move it up until 10.
Thanks, Nick.
Will you go and see where they want to do the off topics?
Yeah.
Who was it, or Angelica? You say when?
Where?
Where? We're just gonna do it here.
Yeah, a lot of people in the way.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Want to just bring them into my office?
You want to stay it's just being there, plus the lighting.
No, I'm in our citizen front. Can you call Ben and see if Lance are? Nick, did Ben say when we're going to get through? I think Gabby just went.
Making sure things are staged well in there, so many. No. Yes, but no.
Right, oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I do.
Thank you.
All right, folks ready? Fred, you get out of the building.
I think, Maki, you asked a question earlier. Do you still have a question to ask off topic?
Yes, yes.
Can we start with you?
All right, can we talk about the snow removal?
Yeah.
It seems like main roads have gotten some passes, secondary roads, tertiary roads.
Yep.
What's going on with that?
So, here's the good news. We're doing a lot of things differently at the Department of Public Works. So we doubled down on getting more pieces of equipment on the road. As you know, the equipment is old, it's in bad shape, but the mechanics have been working a lot of hours to make sure our equipment's going. It's been going for about 2 weeks now. And so our drivers are rising to the occasion. They're doing a lot of long nights. Mechanics are working as fast as possible to get the equipment back on the street when it breaks down. We're really far behind on buying modern snowplows. That's going to take us a little while to catch up. But we also pre-positioned pieces of heavy equipment throughout the city in anticipation of this storm coming. We planned ahead with our outside contractors days in advance. So you're going to be ready if this snow comes, and they were ready. And we also had a strategy of keeping the main roads open no matter what. So in the past, they would wait till the snow was over, but we kept the mains open throughout. We plowed over 1,200 miles of streets so far during this storm. We brought in 150 contractors with high lifts and dump trucks, and they're working on the secondaries. The city itself has over 27 pieces out. Contractors have 153 out. So we got about 2/3 of the side streets done, and we're anticipating having the other 1/3 done by the end of this evening.
Now, I've seen a lot of big piles of snow.
Yeah, so when we get a lot of snow, the piles get bigger. It just happens every year. So, we push the snow, but that's why we have engaged the private contractors. So the private contractors have the dump trucks and the high lifts. So on the commercial corridors where we're first concentrating on, we're actually pulling the snow out of there. So you can park on the commercial corridors right next to the curb, and the snow is not impeding people's ability to park, get out of their cars, and go about their activities of daily living. So we really, made a push to make it so the city could be open for business this morning, and City Hall is open for business this morning.
How would you rate your response to this storm out of 10?
I'll let the citizens, rate our storm effectiveness, but I know in comparison to any point in the last several years, we have more pieces of city equipment and more city crews on the street, and we also had a comprehensive and pretty seamless programs to get the private contractors out there on the streets, and they're all over the city of Buffalo.
Is there some flexibility? You mentioned private crews being brought in with the budget as tight as it is this week being continually cold, more snow expected, that you'll be able to adjust or have some wiggle room?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we declared a state of emergency, and it would allow us to contract quickly with private contractors and use the city of Buffalo's fund that is supposed to be used for weather emergencies. So we're able to tap into that money. So we all know we're in a fiscal crisis, but we can't stop the city functioning because we're in that fiscal crisis. So as we're digging out from the storm, we're also, digging out from our fiscal crisis, making sure we can use the resources available, to the best degree. Because, we're not going back to this, well, you get a big snowfall, it's going to take us days, to clear side streets. We're not going back there. Every city resident deserves to have their streets plowed. And we're going to continue those efforts. As I said, several times, we deserve good services in the city of Buffalo. That's what we endeavor to deliver, and we're on our way with our response, to this storm. But really, it's been snowing, for a few weeks, and we've kept on top of it.
Is there
So
something?
when can residents expect all streets to be plowed?
By the end of this evening.
Is there something that you learned from this last storm that from the past administration that you've already adjusted, whether it be speed humps, or you're adjusting how to deal with those? Is there something that really stands out?
Yeah, so, with our deputy mayor who's in charge of DPW, Ben Swannekamp, and our commissioner, Nolan Skipper, we started meeting on storm preparedness in November, right after the election. And we identified the areas that were holding us back. One of the areas that were holding us back is we didn't have enough mechanics to fix the plows. So we made sure we concentrated on the down periods right after I took office to make sure we had those mechanics working to get as many pieces of equipment as possible. We also renewed efforts, to talk to the snowplow drivers, to let them know how important they are and how necessary they are. You come to work makes the city function. So the drivers have responded. They worked on holidays. They're working on Sundays. They're coming in to do the job because they feel a renewed sense of purpose as the city's putting together a real comprehensive strategy. And they want to be part of the game of making the city function. So I can't tell you how proud I am of the DPW leadership, but also the rank and file, how they've really responded to the changes that we've put in place. And the results, are clear. We're clearing the streets faster than ever.
Just to switch gears completely.
Uh-oh.
Later today at the planning board, the Galasano Institute is going in for their approvals. How important is it to have that building activated, but also have a couple hundred students back in the downtown core?
Yeah, it's a very important project. The Buffalo News was really an anchor for the bottom of Main Street. But when they pulled out of there, they left a vacant building. There was some kicks, some fits and starts, people kicking the tires. It really looked like that building was going to be another white elephant. Lucky the Galasano Institute came in and saw that building as an opportunity. They're going to put a school there. They're going to be delivering, dozens and dozens of students down to that part of Main Street. So we're going to work, expeditiously to make sure that they're able to hit their construction timeline. But, sometimes good things happen. And so a good thing that happened is they came in and said, wow, you have this big empty building that no one else wants? It'll fit our purposes. So, we appreciate Tom Galasano, his foundation, and the Institute for making these investments in the city of Buffalo. But most importantly, they're making this investment in our downtown core. Thanks, everyone.
Back to the EO just briefly here. Obviously, all of us are here gathered today. What is City Hall going to do to message about this EO to the immigrant and refugee community? Are you going to be translating this into languages? Are you going to be, how are you going to get the word out?
So, first, we're starting to get the word out, to the city employees to let them know their rights and responsibilities. And we're going to work with the state's Office of New Americans. We're going to have the order translated into several languages, put it up on Facebook, different websites that different language groups use to make sure that, the word is out there. But word of mouth is really what puts something like this out in the community. So you do the announcement, it gets picked up by the media, and the advocacy groups who work with New Americans, we're all here today, so the word's going to go out, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that everyone who lives in the city of Buffalo knows their rights.
Are you fighting
Last one here, Jim.
Are you fighting a trust factor because of what ICE has done in other cities? That even the new Americans may sit there and say, well, he's saying this, but he's doing
Yeah, I mean, look, this is what we're fighting, right? And I think the federal administration wants this to be a chilling effect. I've talked to people who are scared. People have switched their shifts. People who won't drive to work anymore and, got rid of their job in the suburbs and got a job in the city because they don't want to be driving around, for fear of traffic enforcement. We've talked to parents who are afraid to send their kids to school. So it's all about, the trust factor. But this is that concept of the federal government terrorizing cities and new Americans. The goal of that is to make people scared. And we want to, the best of our abilities, make people secure in the city of Buffalo. Thanks, everybody.
New York for all, briefly, do you support that?
You've asked me this question before. I don't know what bill you're referring to.
It's the bill that.
What's the bill number?
I don't know the number, it's the one that would codify what you're doing here statewide.
If you give me the bill number, I'll look at it and I'll be able to respond to you, but I don't know a bill, but S124, but I don't know what you're referring to. Okay?
All right.
Will this executive order be online or available to the
Yes,
public?
yes, we're gonna send it out with the press release.
Okay,
One thing on the snow, I just wanna point out that we're gonna have to message to everybody is our snow map, the plowing map that we have out there, it doesn't account for contractors at all. So you see, you turn it on, there's a lot of red, it doesn't account for any of the, whatever, 150 pieces that are out there, so.
Cheers, thank you. What are we doing? We're going to gather and watch the signing of the registry?
Night. we go.